All right, Adam. Thanks so much for coming on, man. Welcome to the podcast. Appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday. Just to get started, if you could just introduce yourself, your name, how old you are, what you're currently doing, and we'll get into a little bit of your footballing journey, your coaching journey. Just a little free-flowing conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm Ender Misirly. I am 31 years old. I am currently running AFE Football. I do individual and small group training sessions for kids in Chicago and Chicagoland area right now. And yeah, that's like my current situation and setup.
Sounds good, bro. So can you, take us into a little bit about your playing career? I think, I've heard you on a podcast before with Joe Funicello from Soccer
Hmm.
Bees. I heard a little about your stuff in Sweden, Portugal.
Yeah.
So if you could just take us, maybe through your youth career, where you played youth, and then getting into, when you went overseas.
Yeah, so I played for a really small youth club in Chicago and kind of the suburbs of Chicago. Um, Played like Chicago Magic and all like soccer's, all the big name clubs, but we were a pretty small
Hmm.
club. And I was actually trained from the same coach and trainer from like the age of 8 all the way up until I was 18, 19 years old. A Macedonian guy, so like Eastern Bloc, very like regimented. Like that's where I learned like everything, like technique, all that stuff. From there, graduated high school. My grades were like so poor, like I just cared about playing. And
Yeah.
through him, I kind of got a pretty decent offer to go to a school in Chicago to play,
Okay.
and basically committed and everything, and then opted out of it at the last minute because I wanted to be in Europe, or that was kind of like this, I don't know, not dream, but goal. I'd been saying it since I was a kid, and it was just like, well, I have nothing tying me here anymore, so why not try? And my parents were a massive support for me, and they said, if you can figure out a way, we support you. And I couldn't have asked for anything better than that, because that just gave me full confidence to try it. And I
Hmm.
found, back then there were not maybe even half or a quarter of what is out there right now as far as combines, agencies, all this stuff is like crazy now. But yeah, I
Right.
found some random company in California and found my way in Germany, and was living in a flat with like 8 other players or something like that, and we were all like trialists in a way. We
Right.
would have like these like small group sessions in the morning that were ran by a German coach, and then they would basically like judge us and assess us, and then from there they would basically say, okay, you 3 are coming with me today to trial with a club. And it was just like, all right.
Hmm.
And that's kind of
Mm.
like what started it. And then of course, like
Mm.
you mentioned, I met Joe through, it's a small business, it's a small world,
Yeah.
it's a tight-knit community. And it was like, if you're of a level, you'll start finding your way into other circles of similar, or similar people and like-minded individuals. So that's just kind of how Joe and I's relationship started. And then
Hmm. Hmm.
he helps me a ton. I mean, I've known him for like 7+ years.
For
He
sure. He's
helped.
a
He
real
helped me.
guy. He's a real guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And he totally. I always say to even the young players I deal with now, it's like, you don't. I know you don't want to hear anything from someone that hasn't experienced it and lived it. And Joe is a testament to that.
100%.
Um, I mean, that's why
Yeah,
he
so can you
has.
take us through that Germany experience a little? I think I actually know the company that you went over there with. I think I went over with the same company when I was 20.
Probably.
IFX?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
wasn't
oh
gonna
my
I wasn't
God,
gonna
bro.
drop the name, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't want free publicity, but dude, that's funny, man. That
No,
is
those,
funny.
yeah, some
Where,
interesting, yeah, that could be a whole separate podcast talking about that.
yeah. Where were you?
Uh
Were you in Nuremberg?
yes, I was, yeah.
Okay, okay. You're probably in the same flat I was at when I first began. Wow,
Yeah. Nothing, yeah, I'm
wow.
sure nothing has changed. Yeah, I was like
Right
19 years
near,
old.
right near Rathenau-Platz, I think.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Funny,
became
bro.
like, I don't know the timing, but there was an Italian restaurant at the corner by the
Yes,
by the
yes,
Strassenbahn
yes.
Platz.
Yes, bro.
I
Yes.
became very tight with that family when I was there. Like
Really?
I would just walk into the restaurant and go into the kitchen. Like
Wow. Wow.
that's how tight we were. But yeah, sidetrack. But
That's
yeah, I
funny,
mean
bro.
that was what I mean, being 19 years old and just like
Yeah.
just getting up and leaving. And yeah, I don't know. I guess like the biggest takeaway from that was one of the older players that was already there and like kind of living and was situated. Jordan, he's from
Mhm.
California.
Mhm.
We had like a lot of he helped me a lot. Like he was like 24, 25 at the time,
Mhm.
and he just said that there's a massive distinction between missing home and being homesick. And that was
I
something
like
that
that.
always like resonated with me, and it stuck with me. And I find myself telling a ton of players that who are away at college playing, or wherever they are, wherever their
Mm.
journey or their road takes them.
Mm.
So I definitely like owe that to him.
What do you
And
mean by that? How would you describe that? I mean, because I think I completely resonate with that. I mean, for young players, you got to get out of your comfort zone and, just like you did at a young age, try something, and a
right,
lot of people, they don't realize the sacrifice, that they have to make. But if you change that perspective, it could help them.
absolutely, yeah. Like I see it as like missing home. You're missing those comforts, the materialistic things, the ease.
Exactly. The
Whereas
ease. Yep.
if you are homesick, you are physically ill. You cannot continue in the lifestyle you're living. Your environment is not sustaining your ability to do everyday function. If you're not
Exactly.
eating, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're getting into like mental health then. And that stuff. So that was something that, like I said, the way it was worded, and it does kind of make you stop for a second and really think and digest that phrase or that quote, and it really helped. And it wasn't
Mm,
just my time in Nuremberg specifically; it was that stayed with me up until now.
exactly.
I've never forgotten that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something
Mm-hmm.
that I try and pass on as much as possible.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think people, think that making the jump overseas over the pond is, going to be a walk in the park. But obviously, there are tons of obstacles that you have to face, and I think one of the biggest things is that dealing with the unease. You're not familiar with the culture, not familiar with the language. You don't have your comforts. When you went over at such an early age, how did you deal with that? Like, did you think you dealt with that well? Do you, looking back, you think you could have dealt with that in a better way? Just to advise some younger players looking to make a jump.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. And even to touch on that, like leaving, it doesn't even have to be to Europe. It doesn't have to be thousands of miles
Exactly.
away. It could be to a college. It could be 100 miles away. Physically preparing and playing is easy. That is something that is drilled in your brain, in your like chemical makeup almost.
Yep.
You can do those things without thinking. It's the things that you could even be told will happen or you will experience that you have no way of preparing until you are there and living it.
Exactly.
The way I dealt with it then, yeah, of course. I mean, anything even now, last year, I mean, I could have handled things better. Um,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
I mean, I think the way my pattern is, like I said, I became very close with local family, local anyone. Have someone. I would always kind of like find those people to kind of become my family away from home, or and that alone. I mean, we are creatures of habit. We like routines. We like finding a routine and being in it. That is what our comfort zones are built on.
Exactly.
So finding that in a not so familiar place, I think, is one of the most important things.
100%. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it's about, that's why travel is very uncomfortable for people because, like you said, they're in unfamiliar places. But if you create your own routine that you're used to doing at home, obviously you have to alter some things. That puts you in a better pattern. And, I like to talk about it with guys that I coach and things like that. I'm sure you do it as well. You seem like a super disciplined guy, but I think building a routine, building a habit, building habits is key, to becoming better, because when you do that, you become consistent, and that's the only way you can really get better.
Right, right. I think I remember hearing it was either Rafa Nadal or Federer say that anytime he would get to a tournament, he would immediately make his hotel room like his home. He would unpack his suitcase, put it in the actual the dresser, the drawers,
Exactly.
and find a routine, find home away from home. And I think that is something huge. I mean, especially when
Yeah.
you're trialing, or you're a month here, a month there. Living out of a suitcase is like, you may not think about it, but it starts to kind of wear, and
Yeah.
you're like, when can I finally settle a little bit?
Exactly.
And that's kind of how I felt like I lived for years.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I just saw Joe talking to someone maybe yesterday or something like that. I'll keep
Hmm.
bringing his name up, but
Mm.
because I think he's someone that really does highlight the realities.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. The truth.
yeah, yeah, and it's being a professional is not glamorous.
Hmm.
It's not like they're not equal. That's like the 1%
Exactly.
that it's
Exactly.
made.
Exactly.
And just because you're not making 6 figures, 7 figures, like that doesn't mean you're not playing professionally or you're not in a professional environment.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that's a huge misconception in America, whereas in Europe it's different. That's
Hmm.
why that's why you could be playing in fifth, sixth league, and you're like, damn, like this is serious,
Exactly.
because that's how
Hmm.
they view it. Because
Yeah.
you can go from there to the top league.
Exactly. Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. It's all perspective, though.
Yeah. 100%. No, I completely agree, and I think what you just said is the main reason I had this podcast. Is when I went over at an early age, myself, when I was 19, 20,
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be all sunshine and rainbows. You see all this stuff on Instagram. Oh yeah, pro this, pro that.
Right.
You
Right.
see
Right.
you see that lifestyle, but there's so many more lows than there are highs. But if you truly do love the game, you just using it as a vehicle of growth. That's how I like to look at it. Like,
Absolutely.
especially when talking to parents, or you know, first of all, it keeps you out of trouble. Like we just spoke about before, it gets you into it really sharpens your mind, your mindset, strengthens your mind. And after the game, after you stop playing, you take it into other areas of your life. You take it into. I just had Jay Demerit on. He put it really well. He was like, it's not all about making it or not making it. It's about going on your own journey, using it as your own path. And then if you don't make it per se, you take it into another passion. You take what you learned from the game, and you take it into another thing that you love doing, and you can be massively successful in that. So it's like what he said, what really resonated with me is like, don't look at it as failure or success. It's more about taking from it, and learning from it, and putting it in different areas of your life.
Absolutely. It's. I'll say it all the time. It's like it's given me purpose. And I take that purpose and that confidence from playing or those experiences, and take it into my everyday.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
it's all the same way. It's how you want to word it, how you want to view things, and
Exactly.
yeah, I don't. It's not successes and failures all the time. Absolutely not.
Hmm. Hmm. 100%. Yeah. So could you take us a little bit into the Germany experience? Like, how long were you there? When did you make? Where'd you move after that?
So I was there for quite a few months. Um, we won't speak on
Yeah.
the details of that, but
That could be a private combo.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So some of my family is still there, so like my actual some like distant relatives and things like that. So
Okay.
after that experience in Nuremberg, I believe I came back here for a few months or whatever it was, and then I actually moved in with some family of mine back in
Okay.
Germany.
Nice.
Found my own club, like pretty much by myself.
That's the move.
And yeah, I guess like as quickly as was scrambling, or not scrambling, but how do I get there? How do I get there? After one experience, it was like, well, I've made enough contacts, or I was there long enough, so like I see how it operates, or I was very like
Exactly.
observant about how they moved and how
Exactly.
the ease of things, I guess. So that's kind of how I lined up my next club when I was living with some family, and I stayed there with them. From there, it was, I believe I was then in Macedonia for a little while, Austria, and then from there, I think I met Joe, and
Hmm.
then Joe and Soccer Visa at the time was still probably within its first like year or 2 years, 3 year, I don't know what it was,
Hmm.
and went to one combine, met him, did well. I think I don't know if I got a trial or something that first one, but then we stayed in contact ever since then, essentially, and went to multiple combines. Sent me out pretty much every time I'd show up after the first one.
Nice.
Was getting to places, Iceland, Portugal, Scotland, for trials, getting signed, all that stuff. So like I said, like Joe and I go way back, and he's a real dude and he means what he says. And for anyone else that says otherwise, they don't know him then,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, and that was in his early days. He's on to
Hmm.
like some crazy stuff now,
Mm.
so definitely be on the watch for that.
Yeah. No, no, I respect the guy 100%. He's like the Gary V of football, really creating their
Yeah,
own path,
no,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, no, I respect him. But I wanted to go back to what you were saying in Germany. Like I said before about using things as a vehicle. Like you use the program we talked about before as a vehicle to see how people move, see how people act. And I think that's different in every country, but it's similar in the football world in Europe, I would say.
Yeah.
I always get the question, I'm sure you get it as well. How do you build connections? So for listeners, how, like, 'cause I think we probably did it the same way. Like, you learn the language, stuff like that. But how would you advise to build, connections to move your career forward?
um get out of your comfort zone, ask questions, make friends, like just be a good human being, and
Exactly.
you'll probably connect with people on a personal level, and they'll help you if you ask.
Mm-hmm.
um and that's in everything, you know
100%.
um so yeah, I mean, it was like, it was pretty easy. Like I remember the guy who was in Germany, like kind of tending to the players for the company,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I got pretty tight with.
Mm.
He was a good dude, and it was like, okay, like, and I stayed in contact with him even after I left the company,
Exactly.
for at least a year or two. Like I stayed in contact, checked in, asked how his family was doing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's it's work to, and I'm sure it's like that for having friends that are local. It's work to keep friendships alive and keep contacts alive. That's another it's another thing you give time and energy to. And in order for it to work, you need to tend to it. And it's the same thing with, if you want to network, you got to put in that time. It's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you can't just focus on training and playing, and that, like, if you want to do it yourself, like, it involves that other side of it, that back end, that kind of the business side of it.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah, but I mean, just be a good person, I guess.
100%. No, I completely agree. I think it's about you know, I think it's all about giving value, providing value first, and not always asking for that value back. Just like you said, just being a good person, and you know, uh, creating good friendships and relationships. And we hear it all the time on network. Your network is your net worth, things like that. But
Right.
I think it's trying to create that true friendship, that true relationship, in order to advance both people forward.
Yeah, yeah. And I talked to, he used to play for the Fire, Luka Stojanovic, and we were just talking one day, and he was like, "I don't care the money I've ever made or any. I know I could pick up my phone and and call and have friends in any number of countries
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I've never sat back and looked at it, but the amount of people that I get to still speak to, and if I ever were to visit and call on them and meet, like it's such a like cool thing to have. And like you said, that's a success in itself.
100%.
So
100%.
yeah.
So what would you, comparing the countries you played in, Germany, Iceland, Portugal, Scotland, seem to have been all over. What would you say some similarities and differences were about those places, like how they viewed football, um, and in terms of advancing forward?
Oh, I think all of them, their view of football is just, you know, the top. I mean, you look
Yeah,
at
yeah.
Iceland and what they've been able to do with their federation, as far as how small that nation is and what they've been able to do in the last Euro and World Cup even, and things like that. Like, insane. Germany, of course.
Hmm.
They had when I was there playing, that was kind of like their start of their initiative for their like 10-year plan that they came out with. And then 2014, they win a World Cup.
Mm, mm,
You almost like saw it happen. You saw like the small-sided five-a-side pitches getting put up when I was there, and I would go play pickup there with those things
hmm,
that were put in there from the football federation.
hmm.
Same thing in Portugal. I mean, like, like, I was like really, I mean, Scotland as well. Like, that is the priority. That is the sport. That is, and you feel it, you see it. If you are on the team in the city, they know,
Hmm.
So that's how things differ, and that's that environment. It isn't just when you show up to the training facility or whatever it is. You got to be surrounded by it in a way. You feel it
Hmm.
when you're there,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that's something that I don't think this country, the United States, will ever have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you. Do you see the U.S. going that direction, that route, and if so, why not?
Yeah, it's almost like there's too much going on here. There's like too much.
Yeah, yeah.
There's too much in the way.
An
There's too much.
overwhelm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would assume. I mean, what do you think? Um,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, personally, for me, this off season, I signed overseas again, but I was trying to come back this off season, and I don't know how some of the clubs were ran. I had spent 7 years in Europe, and I wanted to come back this season,
Hmm.
and then just like how some of the clubs were ran, like I feel like they try to be like Europe, but it just no one who actually runs clubs here was ever that I was at least that has ever been, I don't think, inside an actual club in Europe. Like I was speaking to a German friend I have over here. I was like, dude, they just got to get like some Germans to run some clubs over here, teach these guys how to do things. Like I was speaking to one of my buddies. He's like, dude, like they just like he's a director at a club. He's like, people over here just like don't know how to run things, and it's like from the beginning of the conversation, it's putting yourself out of your comfort zone, diving into other cultures, seeing how other cultures do it, especially when they do it well with football, and trying to um, bring back that knowledge over here. I mean,
Right.
that's why I wanted to ask you as well, like teaching these younger guys and being a coach yourself. I'm sure you're trying to bring a lot of stuff that you learned from your experience over to these players.
Absolutely. And at the same time, that's why I stay working with players individually or in small groups, because I want to maintain that relationship and that ability to have those conversations. I think the whole club system, youth club system, whatever it is a little oversaturated here. By a little, I mean a lot.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's just with that oversaturation comes less qualified and less experienced. Um,
Exactly.
and it starts from the grassroots. Like, if you want to speak about how other countries have done it. Look at Germany's model, and that is starting literally at grassroots. And that is where it should start. I fully believe that. And I guess not enough emphasis is put on that here. I just don't see like the U.S. system producing a lot rather than just acquiring.
Yeah. And then also the fact that we have, send a lot of players overseas, and they develop very well, and then they come back and do well.
Exactly.
For the national team, you just see that clearly. I mean, a lot of guys have been developed so well in Germany.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I don't like to answer that question or not answer it. Like, I don't really have the answer to how it's fixed. I just know what I've lived and seen and am currently living, and it's just not where it should be, I feel, and I don't have the answer either. So I guess shame on me. Shame on me too. I don't know.
I mean, it's a never-ending question, I guess. Never-ending answer. I mean, it's just complicated. But to move on, when did you stop playing? When did you kind of transition into coaching? I know obviously you play here and there, but in terms of chasing the professional lifestyle, when did you kind of transition?
That ended in late 2019 was my last season in Sweden. From there, in 2020, I had an offer to go back to Europe. And then things with the pandemic and just a lot of uncertainty of like not knowing if you could leave the country, not knowing if I could leave, but who knows if you were going to get into that country that you just flew to, or you were going to get turned around and everything else. So that's kind of when the whole individual training and becoming, turning into that side of things started multiplying and snowballing. I would do it here and there in between my seasons in Europe. During my summer, my off season, I would come here, work with a handful of players, and then I would leave again. Nice. And then, 2020 is kind of like what, turned it into a Monday through Friday thing for me. And it was never like this super conscious thing. Like, okay, I'm going to stop playing to do this. It was very like it just happened.
And I like a flow.
Yeah, and I still would never, like, if the opportunity or the right offer came, I would still entertain it, of course. Like,
for sure.
Never say never. So
absolutely. No, I love that. Yeah, I mean, you seem to really take care of yourself, in every aspect. So I think it's going back to, always staying ready,
Yeah. And like, again, I think it's an example for the youth as well.
Exactly.
I think showing you can do it and still do it at a high level is a massive. You could say all the things you want about the places you've been and played and people you've met, and it's like they don't care. It's like, show me something cool and like show me that what you're asking me to do, that you can do it.
100%.
10 times better, and that goes a really long way.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of what kind of value do you think individual training provides to players? Because I'm 100% all in. Nowadays we have a lot of guys saying, a lot of people want to put things, either it's either black or white, and I think there's such a gray area that it's like, individual training isn't game realistic. Oh, this, and it's like football is such an art that you can't justify one reason or the other. Like, for example, people want to say that technique is more important than fitness, or fitness is more important than technique, whatever argument it is. But my argument is like, if you're fit and it's the 75th minute, your technique is going to be better, and it goes hand in hand. So it's like, I want to know, obviously you're a huge proponent of that with what you do. What do you think it brings day to day that to your players?
I would say 9 out of 10 players I see or meet, they possess the ability. It is not, most of them probably haven't done it enough, just repetition.
Exactly.
And I would say on top of that, they're mental. They're not confident. I think that's where individual training, you need that reassurance again to touch on from someone you respect and maybe look up to, or
Yep.
see them as a role model, and that backing from someone other than your parent who, I hope they all, love your child and things like that. But, I think that is where individualized training comes in. Is it game like? No. Is it the end all be all? No. Do I want them skipping team trainings to come see me? No. Just this last week, like, I had a session scheduled with a young player, and she got called into training for 2 years older than her. And her father called me and asked me if that was okay. I was like, don't ever ask me that again. You need to be in a team environment.
100%.
I think everything has weight to it. One-on-one training, yeah. I mean, is that weighed as heavily as a team session? No. Is it weighed as heavily as a game? Yeah, absolutely not. Gym work, is that weighed as heavily as other things? No. Like, and it all kind of varies in a way, player to player. So, and I've stressed, like, once your technique, or once you have more reps, you're more consistent, you should be in a small group with me. Always, because I think you should always have someone in your face. I think you should be one-on-one with someone as much as humanly possible. 2v2, 2v, everything. I think that is some of the most important stuff, is kind of getting back to small-sided and 1v1s. You see, like, youth players, and I'm sure you see it all the time. Like, okay, we're doing 1v1s. You probably see half the group, like, their heads drop. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, it's some of the worst things in the world. So that's kind of where I've taken things now. Like, the very, like, structured, like, cones here, cones there. I don't think I lay more than 4 cones down in a session anymore, just because it's just play. Like you said, this technique work, yes, of course, you develop it until it's habit. As soon as you step on the field, you're not thinking about anything. Like, rules and like physics and technique and that stuff goes. Like, you just doing your thing. So the more I can get a player to just do their thing without thought, we're there, or we're getting there.
100%. And that, that's so much easier said than done. But, like, what would you say, like, new player comes into you? How do you generally treat it? Like, analyze them, kind of look at strengths and weaknesses, age, how do you approach a session with a new player?
I want to talk to them. I want to hear them. I don't care if they're 9 years old. Like, why are you coming to me?
Yeah.
And if they can at least utter a sentence, and it is what I would assume is a good reason, then okay, let's start. After that, the first session, I'll pretty much handle, if it's a youth player, of course, I'll probably treat it as every other, regardless of their age. And I don't believe in, like, a coach or a trainer coming in and being like, okay, we're going to do a little bit of everything today. Like, that's not how things should be ran, and it should be a progression. However, that first session, like, I'll take them through some ball mastery work and just things that I believe every player, regardless of age, is capable of doing. And then it kind of just goes from there. I want them on the ball the entire first session, just because I want to see them move. If they look natural, okay, then we'll start like tapering and kind of adjusting and tailoring, things session to session. But if it's not looking natural, then we need more far more work on the
Mm-hmm.
technical side and technique. So
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, bro. So yeah. And I'm sure you get this question a lot. I do, in terms of how do you train for your position? And I always try to put it simply as possible. It's first, it's about, game analysis of pros, game analysis of your own self and your own film, if you have, the luxury to have that, and
hmm
then just replicating those actions.
hmm
How do you kind of try to, obviously it's not, like we said before, it's not super game realistic, if you don't have a lot of pressure, but how would you advise players in terms of training individually, people who are listening and watching this, to emulate the game from their position?
I would say self-awareness is probably
I
one
love
of
that.
the best tools anyone. I don't like you could be I don't care what sport or what your
Yeah.
profession is.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is something that is so important, and self-reflection. Um, I'm sure you could think of a match that happened 5 years ago that you played. Like
Yeah.
those things stay with you, and if you can't call on those moments, especially if they had just happened the weekend prior, and you want to bring them into an individual session, a small group session, team session, something,
Hmm.
then there's a greater issue here. Um, I would say
Exactly.
that is probably the number one thing, regardless if you're coming in for something super detailed and specific to your position, or it's just, I'm here to get better. Okay. Why? What? When? you know,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm. Hmm.
all those things are a huge factor. Um,
Hmm.
and then I'll hear the same thing. I'll ask what they do in their team session, and if they have questions from those. And a
Hmm.
lot of the times they'll say like, "Yeah, we did this thing," and I'll ask like, "Do you know why that is?" I say, "Well, no. We
Mm.
just saw it. We just saw
Mm.
it as like a possession game with,
Yeah.
two target players." And it's like, all right,
Mm.
well, this is why, and
Hmm.
this is what
Hmm.
they're trying to accomplish with that. Like,
For sure. So I mean, I see you really like to get into the minds of the players, which is huge. You're trying to
yeah,
you're trying to teach the players why, and that's everything. That's the stem, of motivation, of doing what you're doing. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is it doing for you as a player, as an athlete, as a person?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because if it doesn't click, then you're just gonna repeat yourself.
Yeah,
If
one
there is
hundred
no
percent.
context, then it's just you're kicking a ball to kick a ball.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like go kick for fun. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not true mastery at that point. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I guess
Absolutely.
that's my biggest thing though. Yeah, like you said, I guess
Mhm.
it is very like making very like cerebral players, and understanding the why and how and what this does.
Mhm. For sure. I mean, I think that's the art of coaching. It's
Yeah.
you can't just deliver a templated, blanketed session to every player. It has to be based on them, from a psychological standpoint, how they learn and things like that. And I think that takes a lot. And going back to what you said about the connections, if you're, a trainer, technical trainer, or what, a personal trainer watching this, listen to this, I think it's about first becoming their friend, becoming their friend, and then, you know, training them, helping them, because once they buy in, once they have that trust in you, like you said before, they gain the confidence to be able to take that into game like situations and onto the field with them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I guess on top of that, and to touch back on a previous subject, it's like there. I also will say to them, try to like care less about what
Yeah,
you're
I like that.
doing.
Yeah.
I see tension in their body, or fear of something that hasn't happened yet.
Mm.
And that's not just in football, that's life. You could be worried about something that an outcome, a possible outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to think that is happening over the course of 90 minutes, hundreds of times.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is how you live, you will be crippled with fear, and you will never perform. So yeah, like we can say this is why we're doing this thing, but there comes a time where I just shut up and let them do as they do. And like I said, if it looks natural to them, technique or not, if it technically sound, maybe not, but that is them. Like you said, football is art, and I fully believe that. So, there are no rules when you step on that field.
100%.
There are tactics and things like that, but you will do what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what makes every individual player unique,
And not getting in the way of that.
Yeah.
Guiding, but not getting in the way.
100%. 100%.
So
with that being said, like when you see fear, when you see nerves, when you see tension, and the movement's not as flowy, are there any specific cues you give the player? Anything you recommend to the player?
I tell them to stop everything that they're doing and walk away from the ball, and only come back to it when you're ready.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a 30-second sip of water or it's a 5-minute let's have a conversation, or they need to walk around, I don't know, be by themselves for a second. But just it's your time.
Yeah.
I'm like here as a guide, that's it. And giving you suggestions, that's it.
For sure. No, and I think like what you said before, it's like stop trying so hard. It's trying to get into it, and I always like to when I discuss from the mental standpoint with players, it's like when people ask me how do you stop overthinking, how do you stop overanalyzing, same thing with that body movement. It's like just letting things settle and not trying to overdo things. Like it's if you have some kind of thought and you're stepping onto the pitch and you have a negative thought, just like not doing much about it, just letting it flow, because that's when things start to settle. And obviously that's when you play your best football, when you're relaxed, when you're flowy. But it's definitely very hard to get into that state, for some people.
Yeah, I always just try and be as free as possible, like mentally, like very present, being like, I think like playing and being able to play in those situations is, once it's gone, you really do miss it. So enjoy that and be fortunate that you have it. Be fortunate that you have someone that you can train with individually, small group, like all that stuff is a luxury. And
that perspective.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, not to get too into that, but yeah, of course.
Yeah. With that being said, I'm sure you get this from players, that you'd come into, Adam, my technique is really good when I'm with you, when we're doing one-on-one stuff, when we're doing small group. But when I get into the game, I'm nervous. I'm nervous, and my technique starts getting crappy. I start making bad passes. What is your comeback, your advice, your answer to that player?
I would say in that specific moment, I would always try and visualize good moments in your memory bank. I mean, like I said, you could think of, I could ask you, hey, think of a match you played in Germany, and like you can think of probably like 3 to 5 good moments, like great moments that immediately puts a smile on your face.
Exactly.
In those moments before a match, I would try and just visualize those good memories. Yeah, I don't think you should be carrying around the past. I think that's turns into ego a little bit. But I think in that very moment, you are in the dressing room or you're in your parents' car or whatever it is on the way to a match. Yeah, think about good actions. Think about them. Think about the moments in the game that you might find yourself in and what you're going to do in those moments. I think visualization is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I mean, we've talked so much in this 45 minutes about the mental,
Yep.
whether it be mentally playing, mentally approaching training, life, going out of your comfort. That should be the biggest takeaway, is how powerful it is.
Exactly.
Um, like I said, the physical stuff is the easiest part. The
Yeah.
actual playing is easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The getting up to fitness is easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All that stuff.
Yeah,
It's mindless work.
for
Uh,
sure.
but the brain is another thing. Having the mentality and the mental capacity to do it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%.
yeah, so
Mm.
that would be
So
my thing.
yeah. So we talked about, mindset, like you just said, mindset and routines, the importance of that. Obviously you still treat yourself like a professional. You want to be a role model for your players. How does a day in your life look?
I'll wake up. I think sleep is so important.
Yeah.
So I try not to set an alarm if I don't have to. So
Mhm.
I wake up when I have to.
Mhm.
Um, Probably get if I don't have some trainings in the morning with players, then it will be some sort of workout, lifting, and then I'll have my lunch, and then it's pretty much a full afternoon and evening of training. So it's either I train in the morning, take a break, and then train again in the afternoon and evening, or it's a workout plus trainings in the afternoon and evening. That's Monday through Friday. For example, on today, Saturday, I had a morning group session, which is not doesn't happen often. I try and give
Mhm.
myself, Saturday and Sunday to myself, whether I want to go play
Mhm.
pick up with my friends, or just do whatever. I try and or watch football.
Mhm.
But I try and do at least like one thing over the weekend where it has nothing to do with football.
I like this. Yep.
Yeah, I try and get away, at
Yeah,
least for a moment.
for sure. No, because I think when we're chasing the dream to become a pro, we are a pro. We're trying to become better as a coach. We're constantly surrounded by the game, but I think being able, like you said, to take your mind off of it is huge. And um, like when you were a player, what was something that you like to do, a hobby to kind of take your mind off of the game?
Just simple, go to a cafe, coffee,
Yeah,
meet with friends, just
yeah,
relax. Try to
yeah.
enjoy where you are, your surroundings, the people you're with.
Mm-hmm.
When I was living in Europe, of course, like, I mean, it's like
People,
beautiful.
yeah, people watch some beautiful women in Europe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, like, yeah, literally, people watching is like
yeah,
one of my
yeah,
favorite things to do.
for sure, for sure.
Um, yeah, I mean, anything. Go shopping. I don't care. Like,
Mm-hmm.
go
Mm-hmm.
have a nice meal. Like, treat yourself.
Yeah,
Um, why
like you
not?
said before. I mean, present moment. Like you said before about stepping on the pitch. And I think that's something that I always try to get across to people. Everyone, they want to know how to focus better and how to be more present. It's on the pitch in a game. Be more present in your daily life.
Hmm.
If you can shift that and focus on the present in your daily life, that increases your concentration. Increases when you step onto the pitch.
Absolutely. And I will say, like, I had a pretty. There was one of the seasons in Portugal that I was going through kind of like a rough, like, form, like dip in form. Like, it just like wasn't a good moment. And my sister actually called me, and this kind of touches on the fact that you need that separation between your football and then life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
she's been a teacher her entire life. It was like she wanted to be a teacher at the age of 5, and when I was 5, I was like, I'm playing football. Like, we were both very determined.
Yeah.
And she just said to me, like, your career cannot be your sole source of happiness.
Mm.
And that was something like, that was like blasphemy. Like, yeah, right.
Mm,
Like this
mm,
is
mm.
everything. This is everything I am. This is everything I
Exactly.
will be. This is my identity. This
Yeah, it
is,
becomes your identity. Exactly.
and it was like, wow, like, yeah, I guess there does need to be a bit more to my like existence than this,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
everything has end. Um, I will do it as long as humanly possible. Like, but there is an end. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
finding those other moments of happiness and presence is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the winning that day, or just being, happier day to day, and then in life.
100%, dude. 100%. No, I love it. I love it. Just to shift a little, I see you've really grown an excellent brand on social media. When did that start coming to play? I mean, you create some excellent content.
I appreciate
When
it.
did that start coming to play?
So my good friend of mine from my like childhood, we played on the same like youth club and stuff. We actually started AFE, uh, God, so many years ago. It was actually
Hmm.
under a slightly different name, and
Okay.
that was back when like Instagram was quite fresh.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and our account, actually, that original account, I think we had like maybe 60,000 followers or something like that, but
Hmm.
it got flagged by Instagram, and then eventually it was disabled for like, I think that was back when they didn't have reels and anything, so there was like no
Yeah.
music, and we would always be like blasting our music and stuff during our videos, so we would get like
Hmm.
copyright claims all the time, just like
Yeah.
super reckless, like we
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
young.
Hmm.
And then I think it was when I was away, maybe in one of the seasons in Portugal, I just made a new account with a slightly, it's still like the original account had AFE in the name, but I
Hmm.
just added AFE Football to
Hmm.
this one, and I didn't even tell him about it. It was just something I kind of like missed doing it, and I was like, well, like, again, you got a bunch of downtime. Like when you're away playing, like it's only a few
Exactly.
hours out of your life, so you got to find your other hobbies, and that's how it started. And I didn't really try and push it or grow it or do anything really. It kind of happened hand in hand with the training business and
Mm.
working with
Mm.
players. And it first started out as like, hey, I want to put like the players out, like doing their thing. I think it's a cool way to like they can see themselves, and
Exactly.
it's this kind of like boost, or as long as it doesn't make them too nervous if I'm filming something, or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. Some of the kids rise to those occasions when it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
get to be on your page.
Exactly.
And then from there, and then it was like, well, then COVID, it was like, well, I should put out some like training material, and like, so
Mm.
that
Mm.
they can just reference these things when they're by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like where it started.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it started getting a little more like serious for me, or wanting to be more like diligent with it, is coming from a place of like, if I can't see, you guys, or like, I just want to put out there like what I'm doing or what you could do in those
Mm. Mm.
situations. And
Absolutely.
then it's just kind of like, again, like I didn't have a plan or anything else. I still really don't have a plan.
Yeah.
It's just happening. So
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
it's
Love
done
that.
really well. So
Mm. Mm. With that being said, do you have a vision for AFE football? Do you
um I don't know. I like, I get some really cool messages, like you posting and like, like so consistently, is like, it makes me love the game again. Or like, I got a message last week, like, I did my ACL, and they told me I would never play again, and I haven't played for like 3 years, but make me want to get back to playing. And it's like,
mm. Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that's like,
So yeah.
it's so humbling, like some of the
Mm-hmm.
messages I receive. And you know um I don't know where it goes. um I would love to interact with more players rather than just the ones that I can physically see.
Mm. Mm.
So
Mm.
I think that is my very next step, is opening up like some virtual training online. And even if it's not like football training or gym stuff, it could be just like group discussions like how we're talking right now. I love talking to players, and
Mm,
like we were saying, like we get to travel and play, or like, and I could call any a number of friends from different places. And you know, I think what COVID showed us is, the beauty of the internet and how close we can get to others and not
mm,
necessarily have to get up and move.
mm.
So yeah, I want to just reach out and connect and work with as many players as possible, and also travel and meet people in person.
Mm,
Yeah, I think
mm,
that's where I see like this year, and then after that, who knows where it all
hmm.
goes.
For sure, for sure. No, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think it's about, COVID showed us the importance, I think, of community.
Hmm.
Building a, if you don't have a, if you're in a remote place, you're traveling as a player, as a coach, you could build a community online. And obviously there are many negatives to social media, but there are also tons of positives.
Yeah,
And I think,
like again, a networking thing. Like if you want to message and reach out and it's from a good place, I think if it's meant for them to see it, they will.
exactly,
So
exactly.
like don't hesitate, I would say, as far as like
Mm,
reaching out or wanting to connect.
mm.
Uh
And
yeah.
I think asking a question or asking, something, it never hurts. It can never do you any good. Never do you poorly. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
um,
Yeah, like I said, if it's coming from a good place, I think that will show through. And like I said, if they're meant to see it and read it, they will.
mhm, mhm,
Um yeah,
100%, bro.
I'm not saying it not saying I can get back, or whoever it is will get back to you that hour, but like I said, in the right time they will.
Mm. Yeah, I'd like to head on to that as well. You know, I'm sure your DMs get flooded. Same with me. Sometimes you can't answer everything. You want
Right.
to, but it's sometimes it's about luck. Like sometimes maybe I'll open my phone, something will pop up, and I'm like ready. I'm in a good mood, ready to answer a question. Boom. You never
Right.
know.
Right, right.
So it's like it
Exactly.
doesn't
I
hurt to
mean,
reach out.
absolutely. And like we're all humans, like we all
Exactly.
have our flaws. Like I'm terrible sometimes. Even how we connected. I don't know how
Yeah.
long it
Yeah.
took me to respond to you, or like how long it we had
Yeah.
been texting back and forth for like 2 or 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's all circumstance. Like it's all good. It's
Yeah.
all
It's life.
love, and yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I said, that friendships and connections and networking is a job. I don't care how tight you are with your boy or whoever it is. Like
100%.
it's work.
Mm, mm,
You
mm.
got a significant other, any it's work. Um,
100%, dude.
so don't think it's just like nothing's easy, really, man. So
Exactly. No,
you know,
amen to that. Amen to
yeah,
that. And
absolutely.
then, and then when you build those true friends, you build those true connections. Sometimes you don't talk for a couple months, but boom, you meet up in person. It's like you've been talking for a while. So it's like,
It's all good. Yeah, yeah,
mhm,
exactly. And it doesn't hurt to just say like, I hope you're doing well.
for
Like
sure.
that is enough to show someone that you thought of them and you took the time to at least reach out.
Hmm.
And that's huge.
Hmm. For me, one of the biggest things that I always try to do is, on holidays, I always try to reach out to past friends, people, and I think that those are the best time to connect. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, hope you're well. People
Absolutely.
like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And like same thing with developing that network of people to help you, in your career, whatever it is. Like you said, what a great time to just remind them that, hey, I thought of you during this time. You never know when you'll need help. And like you said, don't be afraid to reach out to anyone ever.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so
100%.
yeah,
Yeah, dude, been a great conversation. Appreciate you coming on. Got two more quick questions.
absolutely.
Um, if you could go back to any age, with the knowledge that you have today at 31, what age would you go to, and what would you tell yourself?
Oh man, I don't know. Maybe like age like 14 or 15, and to like stop being such a dick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I had a big
yeah.
old like I had a big old like chip on my shoulder at a like pretty like like my early teenage years. Like
I could second that myself, man.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I thought everyone owed me something. Um I just thought like yeah, like I said, I felt like everyone owed me the world because of who I thought I was.
Mm.
Um and just how like I don't want to say no one matters, but like you are a blip, especially in the world of football.
Exactly.
There's thousands just like you.
Yeah.
So it's all about how you carry yourself and your attitude. Just to
Mm.
circle back and kind of, you know, continue to like hammer that one point. It's
Mhm.
how you present yourself and your attitude towards people. So
Mhm.
yeah, that
Mhm.
would probably be my biggest thing to say.
100%.
Don't
Mhm.
be a prick, young
Yeah. Yeah.
Adam.
Yeah. Be a good person.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
What about
So let
yourself?
myself, man.
I
No
want to
one's
hear
ever
from
asked me
you.
that. No
I'm gonna
one's asked
flip
me that.
this now. We're flipping
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
podcast. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Man, I would around that same age, um, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
I would say if you want to do something and you really have your mind set on it, whatever it is. For me, it was be a pro player at that age. Don't listen to others and continue on that path. Because for me, where I come from, football is not the main sport. It's more baseball, basketball, lacrosse. And
Right.
like none of my buddies from high school or middle school were footballers,
Right.
who were in my high school, in my schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I remember in middle school, people would, foot fairy, this, that. And when I was 14, I was probably one of the better players in New York. I was, doing well. Um, and a lot of that stuff got into my mind. Like, at that age, your brain is so malleable. Things
Right.
could just
Right.
come in and they could stick and they could really affect you. And that's why, guys like us, I like having conversations for the younger guys and girls to hear, coming from, role models, mentors. Um, and I didn't have that at that age. I didn't have a mentor, at that age to push me on my way. So I let that get in my way. I stopped playing football for like, you know, 2 years. I started
Wow.
playing American football, started
Wow.
playing lacrosse. And man, like I came back, like the team I was on, it was like one of the better teams in New York. I stopped going to the trainings.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. I thought I was some, cool kid, some,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and came back. I got cut from the team, got a letter, and I didn't think it meant anything at that time. Obviously, my parents were telling me otherwise, but I was like, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Come back. Obviously, missed the game. Felt it was a wrong choice. Came back at 16, and I was, you know, pretty far behind to where I was at before.
Right.
So my thing is, if you have a dream, if you have a vision, chase it. And I'm not second guessing myself. Like maybe if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be as hungry as I am now.
Right.
But if I treated that differently, it's everyone says don't listen to other people. Now I have that attitude.
Right. Right.
When I was about mid 20s, I started having that complete attitude. I really don't care about what anyone thinks because at the end of the day, everyone is always focused on themselves. You think
Yeah.
people are judging you, but they're worried about themselves, and
Yeah.
it comes down to the simplest thing. Like I've had some women as clients. I've had some overweight clients, and sometimes they're scared to go to the gym because they don't want people judging them.
Right.
But I always tell them like people are worried more about themselves. They're judging themselves. Just go in there, do you, make yourself better, carry out the right habits, the right routines, and everything's gonna be all right. So yeah.
Absolutely. And like, I guess to touch on your, 15, 16-year-old self is try and tell this to the young players as well. Like you must surround yourself with like-minded
Mm,
individuals, and that touches on the
mhm.
environment thing that is being that should be preached all the time. Yeah, they don't want the same goals as you, or they're not near the same goals as you, then it's probably not the right people for you at that moment in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I mean, we see those quotes, and I say this probably every podcast. Quotes are quotes for a reason. They work, but
yeah,
they're hard to implement into your life. Like, you can
right.
see the quote, you can hear a speech, get out of your comfort zone. But until you go to Germany at 18, 19 years old, you're living in a flat with 8 guys. You're working with that company. You're not out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. No, for sure. Go
So,
see Joe in Costa Rica.
yeah,
It's a far
exactly.
better experience.
Exactly. Amen, bro. So yeah, last point. To sum everything up, what would be your top 2 to 3 tips for any player looking to sign their first pro contract or get into the pro game?
Oof, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's really tough. I think to touch on everything that you just said is like, people say that they want something,
Mm,
and I would say many of the times they don't necessarily really truly believe it.
yes. Yes.
That is, and it goes back to self-awareness. It's not just I had a match yesterday, I'm gonna kind of like go through it mentally. Like, I'm saying, self-awareness, like, you got to have a very honest question with yourself.
Mm,
Take a look in the mirror. And it's not, you're not gonna think of everything that you're going to encounter. But yeah, that is a very real and a very hard conversation to have with yourself, maybe with your parents, if that is your
mm,
support system, your grandparents, your friends, I don't know, your
mm,
girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it is,
mm, mm.
whoever your circle is, that is a conversation you must have.
Exactly.
And they might not know one thing about it, and you may not know one thing about it, but like we just said, if you look at someone and you value someone's opinion, the beauty of social media is that you can be connected in a second.
Mm,
And if
mm,
they are meant to like reach out and see it, they will.
mm.
And don't just reach out to one person. I'm sure there are many people that you can ask, and anyone, just try. I
For
think that
sure.
instead of 3 steps, I think that is one, and probably the only one right now,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
if you make that commitment to not just this goal or dream, that is a commitment to yourself and the
Mm,
people around you, because it will not only affect you, that affects everyone else.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You need to understand that you will not be there for birthdays, you will not be there for weddings, funerals,
Exactly.
illness. I don't know, but I'm sure you've experienced it as much as I have. It
Mm,
is a
mm.
selfish road. It's lonely at times. It is,
Oh, amen. Amen to
yeah.
that, man.
So if you can really sit yourself down, or whoever your loved ones are, and say, yeah, I can do this, or we are able to do this, then okay. Then from that moment, I'm not saying it's easy, but getting somewhere now, like, without the company that will not be named, um, you can get somewhere relative. If you have a CV and a highlight video that is decent, you can probably find yourself at a combine,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and at least
Absolutely.
start that journey. Or you can find yourself somewhere you don't even need a combine.
Mm, mm,
Find some email addresses, find contact information, write up an email, send your links.
mm,
You'll get a look. They'll bring you
mm,
in.
for sure. Even go
But
on
yeah,
Facebook. Facebook.
yeah,
Look up some
or you can,
clubs. Send them a message. Instagram. Send
yeah,
them a message.
absolutely. But I think, yeah,
And
skip the 3 steps. I think you just
yeah, I
need
love it. I love it.
step
Good.
one.
Yeah, simplify it. Simplify it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think to add on to that, you got to have people in your life that are honest with you. not
Yeah.
yes men. You know, not people who are just going to say, you know, yes, they're going to truly challenge you and tell you the truth. Like
Yeah.
I could think of this prime example. Like one of my good buddies from my area, he wanted to go play American football overseas, and he's big guy, like into socializing and the social life.
Yeah.
And I told him, dude, it's not as, you know, and it's still the same, you know, concept. I said, dude, it's not as glorious and uh, as, you know, sunshine and rainbows as you think. There's many
Right.
tough times. You're going to be lonely. The social life is going to be completely different. You're not going to, you know, obviously you can make great friends, but there's going to be a lot of sacrifice. And I told him, if you really love the game that much and you really think this is for you, I really would love you to do it. And I think it's just like I said from the beginning, it's going to teach you a lot about life that school never would, you know. That experience is everything.
Right.
And yeah, man, within, like, you know, still one of my good buddies till this day. Like within 2 months, he called me. He's like, "Bro, I don't know how you did this for 7 years." I'm like, it takes a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once you experience it and you feel it, um, and to second that, like, give it a try. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt to give it a try. Just like we said with the messages, go give it a try. You know, obviously you got to save up your money. You have to make sure you're ready physically, technically, mentally, but give it a try. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt. And one thing my stepdad always told me that resonated with me is you can always be, you know, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever you want to be. You could be that at any age, but you can't always be a footballer. So you're
Right.
young, go chase it now.
100% agree. Yeah. I mean, like I would say that till I couldn't anymore.
Yeah,
And again, there's no just because you went and came back, that is not a failure.
exactly.
You did far more than 99% of the population.
Exactly.
So
100%. Amen, bro.
yeah,
So
man.
great conversation. Definitely look forward to connecting with you in the future. You know, doing some work together, training.
Absolutely.
Um,
That'd be awesome.
will be good, brother.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, man, if people, you know, want to find you, you know, reach out. Instagram, TikTok. Where can people find you? I'll obviously drop it below.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Instagram, TikTok, dabbling in YouTube a little more.
okay.
Yeah, and
It's a
then like I
dangerous
said,
space, man. It's a tough space out there.
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, just be on the lookout for when I release some stuff where you can work with me online and stuff, things like that. Yeah, I just want to connect with as many people as possible, players, and pass along my experiences, just like you and I kind of shared a lot of stories and very similar stories.
Yep.
Just trying to help and push that as much as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of the Saturday, good rest of the weekend, and
Thank
look
you
forward to
very
staying
much.
connected, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk soon.
All right, man.
All right,
Peace out,
man.
homie.
Later.
See you, brother.